Okay, I attempted to record this while getting ready for the day. It did not work. I'm too ADD for that. So I'm just gonna stand here with my hands on my hips. But ta-da! This is me. This is the first time I've got. Don't look at my room. I'm getting everything settled. But this is the first time I've gotten ready like a real person in like 5 days. So I went to Minneapolis or Twin Cities Startup Week. I was part of their fly-in program, and it was 8 days. I came home. I had been up for 36 hours because I have FOMO and can't say no to going out. And so I went out after the after party for Twin Cities Startup Week, flew home. I got to the airport at 4:30 in the morning, arrived in Wichita at around noon, and then came and took care of my dogs. Stella, that shithead, she had emergency surgery on the first night I got there. So that was awesome. And I love her a lot because I spent like $4,000 to get a sock out of her intestines because she's a shithead. But point is, got home at noon and then I babysat at 5 and I tried to take a nap. It didn't really work out. So by the time I was like done with my day, I'd been up for 36 hours. I slept an hour on the plane and then my kind of sort of nap. So today's Wednesday. That was Saturday. This is my first day like getting ready for the day. So big wins here, but today I wanted to talk about pushing your limits with chronic illness. I think it is easy to tell ourselves we can't do things, and a lot of times like that is legitimate. Like, I can't do that. I need to set boundaries for myself, not push myself too far, and then have to deal with the repercussions of a flare. Our parents often are also pretty protective of kind of what we do just because, you know, our bodies are spontaneous. And then I feel like the chronic illness community also allows us to give ourselves permission to stay safe a lot of times. And that is a great thing and it's important. But sometimes it is important to also, can you not? Sometimes it's also important to test your limits and prove to yourself that you are capable and independent. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I am 22. I turned 23 in like 26 days, hashtag Scorpio, which is a little scary. But I was not able to go away for college. I was really sick my freshman year of college, and you know, it wasn't feasible. There were about 2 months where I couldn't work, and there were periods of time where I couldn't walk or talk. And that takes a toll on not only your confidence, but what you feel is your ability to be independent. I'm going to say independent a lot in this video. And so I've kind of carried that with me. Even when I've been in remission and been healthy, I have put limits on myself and what I feel like I can accomplish, because I, in the back of my mind, am like, well, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. There's no way I'm capable of that. And this year I've really challenged myself to test those limits and push beyond those fears, because it's like exposure therapy, like if you're into therapy, which I highly recommend. But once you prove to yourself that like, okay, I am capable of doing this, and you do it and nothing bad happens, like boom, cured. Your brain is unfucked. So point is, this trip to Minneapolis was super important to me, and it was a huge milestone. I went to Mayo Clinic for like 24 hours by myself and flew by myself in June, so a couple months ago, and that was a big milestone. I'd never gone to Mayo by myself, and previously, like, I've had to be wheelchaired around the airport. So going on a trip by myself for 8 days, not in a medical setting, was super exciting. When approaching like testing your limits and what you want to challenge yourself in, I think it's important to know what you value and what you struggle most with, and kind of what you want to test. And for me, travel is super important, and it's something that I felt like I've struggled with and haven't been capable of doing for a while. And so when this opportunity for the fly-in program came in, I was terrified. I kept having panic attacks, and like on the way to the airport, I was like, I don't think I should go. But I knew it was something that I wanted to challenge myself with, and so I did. And guess what? Yes, I flared, but I survived, and oh my gosh, I had the time of my life. So knowing your values and knowing what you struggle with most, and starting with a small goal, such as like, obviously me going to Mayo by myself might not be feasible for some people, and it wouldn't have been feasible for me last year. But this year, that was a small goal I had, and it allowed me to build up and build confidence for this trip to Minneapolis. All right, I talk about it all the time, but it's because it's important. I think having a script prepared for different situations is key to testing your boundaries. Whether this is going out with a group of friends that aren't super familiar with your chronic illness, or going on campus for the first time since being online since your diagnosis. Having a script eliminates a lot of anxiety and just prepares you overall to address situations that might come up. For example, I have a script for my cataplexy. I think people, well, I do talk about, like, this is my job, is talking about my chronic illness. But I'm sure people that meet me are like, why is this girl telling me her life story? Well, I'm telling them my life story because it gives them context if something is about to happen or something does happen. For example, I'm pretty sure everyone in the Fly-In program knew my story, which is not necessary, but knew that I had cataplexy, and that cataplexy was triggered by emotion, rashes, food. For example, like, we were sitting at dinner the second day, and this guy Mike, he's like, hey Maddie, like, you have a rash, did you have contact with shellfish? And I was like, oh no, it's just the sun, and I was laughing and having emotion. But making people aware of what might happen not only reduces your anxiety, which is huge because anxiety causes flares, but it also prepares people in case something's going to happen, which reduces their anxiety. Not that that's your job, but I think communication is key in my opinion. And obviously I'm privileged because that comes easy for me, but I would really encourage you to create your own script with your comfort level of information that informs people of what your disease might look like if something happens, and how they can advocate for you and help you in the situation. Because for the most part, people are good. They want to help you if something happens. And I think that was a key to my success over this 8-day trip. So I started small by traveling, on small little one-night road trips with friends, or Gulf Shores, which was a little longer, but it was with people I really trusted. So that was kind of the start of me testing the limits of travel, because again, travel is one of the things that's super important to me. Then when I went to Mayo by myself, that was another huge milestone. It involved flying, which I have anxiety with because a lot of times, like, something about getting off a plane causes me to have cataplexy. I've collapsed in the middle of airports and had to be wheeled to my gates before. So again, airlines was a huge anxiety. I went to Mayo and back, which it's hard to explain, but like, when you're flying into Rochester, a lot of times you're with people that are also patients of Mayo Clinic. And so if anything happens, especially in the Rochester airport, like, they're completely understanding. And then I also, like, have a medical ID. I'm not very good at wearing it, but then all my medical information is on my phone. Luckily also, like, nothing happened, so that was helpful too. But I kind of have, like, some backup plans in case something does. So testing my limit then with Roch, I'm totally like saying the same thing over and over again. But so I started small, going on the road trips with friends and proving to myself like that was okay. Traveling without my parents was good to go. Sure, it still gave me anxiety, but like, I did it. And then going to Rochester, again, I was a nervous wreck and had some meltdowns, but it was important to me and I did it. And then going to Minneapolis was huge. Again, tried to convince myself to not go, but I built up to it with these, previous trips, and I did it. And now, like, who's a bad bitch? Me. Point is, start small, have a small goal, and build up to your big goal. So, like, I would say this is like a big goal of mine that I accomplished, but I started small. And, starting small could be going on campus for, an activity. If you aren't comfortable going on campus, for example, going on campus for an activity, going on campus for one class, going on campus for 3 classes, with travel, or going and socializing with friends, going out for an hour, going out for, something that your mom is there. Like, just find your goal, start small, and build up to bigger things. lastly, because I'm almost done with my tangent, this is a long video. Lastly, it's important to accept the consequences of testing your boundaries. I knew going into this that I was gonna flare. It was 8 days. I had a blast. I lived my life to the fullest, which is something that is really important to me. And yes, I could have held back and I could have not participated in some activities, but I'm a big memory maker. When I flare, that is what I hold on to keep myself going mentally. And so I wanted to push myself and I wanted to participate in all the activities. Yes, I took naps in public. And had some great people that woke me up when my nap time was over. But for the most part, I did not let my chronic illness limit what I was doing. Again, a privilege. But I knew when I got home, I was gonna flare. I set aside a week of time where I had no responsibilities, no meetings, nothing. And the whole trip, I knew that I had that to fall back on. And when I got home, I wasn't angry because I flared. Because I knew going into the situation that these were going to be the consequences of my actions, but I was okay with that. And so when you're testing your boundaries, it's really important to anticipate the consequences of those actions and evaluate whether or not you're okay with those consequences. In my case, I was. And, 8-day trip, going from a 24-hour trip, that is a big jump. And so I knew the consequences were going to be bigger. But as you're building your tolerance for testing these boundaries, you're not necessarily going to flare for 4 days afterwards because you had built slowly your tolerance. Yeah, I've been flared in the past couple months, but I've been responding really well to Humira. And so that also was helpful in going on this trip because, my body wasn't super, super angry. Yeah, it was like a little pissed off, but I knew that this flare was probably going to be manageable, and it was. So, in review, that was super dumb. Oh, well. Okay. You need to know if you're going to test your limits, like Maddie Shanka suggests. Number 1, talk to your doctor. Disclaimer. But know your goal and what you are striving to accomplish, what limit you are trying to test. I have a list here. What do you want to try most in life? And then write a script. Make sure you are comfortable advocating for yourself. Start small. Look at my list. Wow. And lastly, accept the consequences. Accept the consequences. And be okay with them. As I almost frame it as my flare was my reward for having a fucking awesome time. So that's my advice. This is a really long video and I apologize if you watched the whole thing. Congrats, you deserve an award that does not include a flare. Catch you next time. Maddie Shanka, out.